Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Coach Peggy Show. I am Coach Peggy. Happy Tuesday. Love is in the air. Valentine's Day is right around the corner. I am so excited. I want you to think about a loved one, or maybe you're your own loved one, or a new loved one. And so, my guest today, this is a perfect timing to have him on the show. And we're all about wellness and well being. That's what I do for all these years. And so when I started this new show, I have all these different dimensions, right, in my wellness wheel. So we go 24 spokes deep. This guy meets a bunch of them. Can't even tell you how excited I am. So Miguel is actually my first guest on my brand new show. So I usually lead with a quote. So before I read you his bio, I actually took one of his quotes, which is actually his tagline he uses. But here you go. When the two become one, we are home. Miguel, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Look at you just absorb your own little words. How cute are you right now? So listen, Zach, pop up if you could that spoke for us, that wheel for you guys that are watching. So I've got four quadrants. It's heart, spirit, mind, and body. And we go really deep with those. Okay. It's not just nutrition or exercise. Let me tell you, we're here. Miguel's going to hit relationships, belief, faith, growth, development, values, passion. The story goes on. So let me talk to you about his bio real quick. He is very, very unique. This is not his first rodeo. He's been around a hot minute. So he holds qualifications in teaching and counseling and coaching. But his most important qualifications to me are the 20 years of personal spiritual practice and deep commitment to healing, right? Those profound traumas that we have in ourselves as a baby, young boy, young, I'm sure into manhood all the way up. So his personal experiences, his journey, fragmentation, all those depression, dis-ease. He is here to share his personal journey, but you guys are going to relate. I am telling you, you're going to relate to this. And Miguel, you can't write a story like this without living it. So welcome from the UK, Miguel Dean.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and all those, all those interesting things that you shared about me, because it's, we kind of get into the moment, and this is where we are, and yeah, sometimes it's good to just remember where I came from and the crazy journey that I've traveled to be here today.
That's funny when somebody else talks about us. It's usually to someone else. And often when they talk to someone else, that's when we wish we could hear all those beautiful accolades of all the things that we've done. And you've done it all. I've researched you. I've stalked you. I've researched you. So I'm excited to have you share your stories. So listen, I don't know if you, I know you realized this because it's in your darn book, but I can't even remember what specific page it was. But as I was reading it and I was thinking about bringing you on the show this week, I was like, reading it, and the male character looks down in the bottom right of his laptop without realizing it's February 14th. So when you're writing in the book, it's actually about the date that we're upon. So timing,
Yeah.
isn't it interesting timing?
Yeah. There was a lot of synchronicity, as you're aware, in that book. Just what I like to call it magic, stuff that we can't
Mhm.
really get our head around. But yeah, it was riddled with magic, and yeah, and I guess my life has been riddled with magic as well.
It has. It has. And so I thought, Bring Him Home is a very unique book. You took a very unique twist instead of just this autobiography that is just bullet points of this is me and this is what happened and now I'm going to take you through all these lessons and you can do a workbook now and discover yourself. It really is deceiving when you read what the book is about and you pick it up and you're very surprised about the characters and pleasantly surprised. So you guys, before when we were doing an outtake, getting ready for the commercial to come on. And I said to Miguel, I said, this is like a Harlequin romance. I mean, this book like had me captivated. I said, Peggy, this is a horrible UK accent. Peggy, I don't even know what a Harlequin romance book is. So for those of you who are American or maybe abroad, you do know that. And it's a love story and it's written really beautifully. Can you tell us how we're chatting today? What your journey was that got you? I know we can't go through all of your years, but kind of what got you started? What happened with your mama, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Mama died when I was about 7 months old. She was pretty ill for the first 7 months, while she was around, and then she wasn't around anymore. I was looked after then by my auntie for about a year. My dad remarried, and then I was reunited with my brothers and sisters and my dad and my new stepmom. And then my stepmom had her own child with my father when I was about 5. So the reason I just kind of bunched that all together and is because by the time I was 5 years old, I'd suffered 3 sort of major traumas of losing 3 mothers. Because when my stepmother gave birth to her own child, something
Mm.
changed in her, and she became quite angry and abusive and violent, and we were treated very differently to her son. So there was this
Okay.
kind of rejection and sort of from there as well. So there were 3 times big trauma: losing the divine feminine, losing mother, losing the embodiment of love. And long story short, that led to very low self-esteem. I was kind of in fight and flight really for my whole childhood, scared of when my stepmom was going to sort of kick off again. Eventually left home, sort of felt like escaping, sort of. I mean, I was 18 when I left home. It was like that was when we were allowed to leave home. It was like you're allowed to go now, and I couldn't get far away quick enough, really. But you know how it works, our unconscious, what's going on in the unconscious, and because I had very low self-worth, I didn't think I would amount to anything, and I thought I was unlovable. I attracted that kind of life to me to reflect that back. So I
Mhm.
fell into a shadowy world of drugs and violence and petty crime and homelessness. I sort of spent about 7 years on the road as a sort of new age traveler. Bits of that time was spent begging on the streets.
Wow.
It was a pretty chaotic time, really. And when I look back, I can see that I was, continuing. There was nobody there to abuse me or neglect me, so I continued to do that to myself.
Exactly. You were
Yeah,
trained.
yeah, I was well trained. So fast forward to when I was about 28. My first son was born on the road. And I hoped that would make me feel better. I was pretty depressed. I was in a bad way. The drugs weren't working anymore, as in the
Mhm.
drugs weren't suppressing all the emotional pain and stuff, which unconsciously was why I was, got so hooked on drugs. And the birth of my son just made things worse. Because it was kind of like I lost my mummy again, like my girlfriend, his mom.
Oh,
All of a
yeah.
sudden, she was giving all her energy to this, to my son. So that felt like another rejection, and so my trauma was kind of re-triggered. And yeah, one day feeling I'd probably be better to walk away from this situation and just leave them, because I was just bringing nothing but negativity, to the table. I went and saw a counselor as a last resort. It was like, okay, either I walk away or I try this one last thing.
Mm.
And this counselor, which I eventually found, although I had no faith in the process, it was just, my back was to the wall. All these light bulbs went on. I began for the first time talking about my childhood, and for the first time could sort of became aware of how I'd been living was connected to what had happened to me as a child. That was the first time I became aware of it. somebody began listening to me for the first time, somebody cared for the
Right.
first time, somebody was asking questions, and somebody was saying, what you experienced, isn't kind of normal, like, and I
It's a
was
lot of loss.
really puzzled to begin with. It was like, oh, right, wow, okay, is that so? It's all I'd known,
Mm-hmm.
So, I suppose I really need to, the light bulb moments, get married, move into a house. I need somewhere safe. I've got work to do inside myself. For the first time, I became aware of that. And I also realized that perhaps I have some value. Perhaps I could do what this counselor has done for me. And I went back to school, I went to college and started doing some
Amazing.
counseling qualifications. And I got married to show some commitment to my son and my partner, and moved into a house. Yeah, moved into a house, and because you need somewhere safe, if you're going to start doing this digging around and work.
Right.
So the next, if we skip over the next 20 years, really, were sort of, marriage, divorce after about 15 years, and then a couple of long-term relationships. And the same sort of pattern was happening at the end of the relationships, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a little while to realize, but what was going on was I was expecting my partner to complete me,
Oh,
and to
yeah.
be a sort of salve for this mother trauma that I was still carrying inside myself. And after the end of so there was the marriage, two other sort of 3-4 year relationships. You see, every time a relationship ended, every time it just re-triggered this trauma. So
Absolutely.
I was just always in pieces, and it took me months to recover. And I didn't realize that all this child stuff was woven into my grieving process at the end of the relationship. But towards at the end of the third one, I kind of realized what was going on. I kind of had an inkling. I didn't know the depth of it, but I said to life, I'm ready. I'm ready. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to carry this. I can't go into another relationship, with the fear that it's going to end in this extremely
Right.
painful way again. So, my sword is in the ground. No more fighting, no more running, no more avoiding. Whatever it is, bring it on. I will do the work. I'm ready to set myself free of this once and for all. And I expected then, that I would be single, because I've been a bit of a serial monogamist, really.
Right.
I'd kind of gone
Okay.
from one relationship to the other. But life said, okay, if you're ready, we'll bring you the perfect person that will catalyze, that will trigger, that will facilitate the healing and transformation process that you need to go through. And that brings us to the beginning of Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. That was when this amazing woman showed up in my life.
So, oh my gosh. See, you're just mesmerizing. Look at me, tell the whole thing. So, when you started to connect those dots, because even in my industry, whether you're a coach or a physician or a counselor or in your own journey, that's some of the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing to do. So if I'm working with someone, I'm looking for those dots. I'm looking to go deep. And when I'm working on me, it takes a long time to find there are even any dots. So
Yeah.
it took you a while, obviously, and we've got this repetitive pattern. So did you sit in that and you went boom, 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 here's 5 or 6. And because it is pretty remarkable, you flipped it around, buddy. I mean, you went from homelessness to house to thinking relationships, you were going to be single, to deserving. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy. It was, I think there's a couple of, well, there's all sorts of factors. For the first 10 years, probably from about 30 to 40, I read, loads of stuff, and I went on all sorts of spiritual retreats and workshops. I was hungry to learn and try and work this out. I knew that there was stuff that I needed to resolve within myself. So I was a voracious learner. And then I guess the next 10 years were more experiential. It's like the first 10 years with the theory, and then it was, sort of matching up the the theory with the practical, if you like. And I'm a
Right.
pretty stubborn, self orientated kind of person. You know, I don't like giving my power away. You know, although I support others and facilitate others, I'm also big on, you know, you've got to do the work, and there may be other people that will ease the process. But I feel that there's a lot of people that just want somebody else to fix them.
Right.
And I guess, you know, just my whole upbringing and my years of living on the road and so on, I'd learned to be pretty self-contained, and so I'd become very self-aware, you know, through going through the
I
process that I've
bet.
been
Yeah.
through.
You'd have to get where you are.
Yeah, the mindfulness, the understanding my own process, the making that journey from the head back to the heart and beginning to
Mhm.
feel the emotions. There were all sorts of kind of coincidences that happened. You know, I found myself back in my body. You know, I re-entered my body through dance and through Tai Chi, but there wasn't a conscious decision of that. I now know that the body, to a large extent, and the heart is the doorway to healing and transformation. But we have to have the courage, you know, to go back to the heart, that which we left behind, because there was so much
Mhm.
pain and trauma there. So that when we revisit it, the first thing we revisit is all that pain and trauma. You
Right.
know, I didn't consciously know that's what I was doing, but
So when
it,
you led into one of the things that you talk about in the book is the unconscious and the conscious relationship. I mean, that's really what you were doing towards the end in your healing. It was just trying to build,
yeah,
oh, that's within me, that, I'm reading about that and I'm trying to marry these fragments
yeah,
together.
yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. It was very much a case of just becoming more conscious, really. And but you know, the thing is that the thing that always gets in the way of consciousness, it seems to me, is emotion. So when all a load of emotion and we're triggered comes up, you know, it's like a fog, it's like a cloud, and we can be really self-aware and really kind of centered and grounded. But when your trauma gets triggered, you know, and this was happening, you know, through the book, it was like there was this terrified little boy within me that
Mhm.
was, you know, and then there was this really conscious man. And,
Right.
you know, gradually by standing in the fire, if you like, of and daring to feel that trauma and be with it, rather than getting stoned or getting busy or avoiding it,
Right.
or, you know, that more and more the man in me could sort of soothe the little boy and reassure him, you know, and say, look, hey,
Right.
this is all right. This isn't about what's happening now. We are emptying out the
Mhm.
trauma, the feelings that we weren't able to express and feel then.
I strongly believe I never used to say this. I came from the era of coaching where we said knowledge is everything, be aware. It's crap
Yeah.
because knowledge isn't everything. And we'd have everything fixed and you and I wouldn't be in business or chatting because we're pretty
Mhm.
smart people. But it's that emotion that hiccups that knowledge, even if we have good habits and meditation and Tai
Yeah.
Chi every day, that just puts us back to
Mhm.
that 2-year-old in the crib that's been abandoned or whatever the trauma is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I always say, knowledge isn't power, it's the application of knowledge that is power.
Very good.
You know, we
I
have to
like
live
it.
it, don't we? And walk it and practice it. And, you know, and the emotion can throw us off the track for a little while. But, you know, with strength and perseverance and commitment, we just pick ourselves back up and we keep coming
Right.
back. And every time it gets a little bit easier because we're kind of deleting some of those old neural pathways, some of those loops that
Yeah.
have been going round in the unconscious, you know?
Rewriting the instruction manual. There's a
Absolutely.
different a better page to go to each time. What do you think are the main struggles in a relationship, either within yourself or with others, wherever you want to go off road with that?
Mm. Well, you know, they're both the same in a way, isn't it? Because the relationship that we have with ourselves is is kind of mirrored by the relationship that we have with others.
Yes.
You know, where I'm judging myself, where I'm judging my partner, you know,
Mhm.
it's because I'm being judgmental of myself. Where, you know,
Oh,
over
it's
and
so
over
true.
and over. So I guess the biggest challenge really is to keep owning our stuff and not projecting, and whenever and that it's
So true.
never about what our partner does or says. It's about how we interpret what they do and say, and how that
That's
touches
good.
an unresolved or an unhealed wound within ourselves. So,
That's good.
ultimately, if you can turn it round, which is always a work in progress, and I certainly haven't mastered this. I'm doing a lot better, but instead of blaming when the other person upsets us, it's saying thank you to the other person because you have illuminated something within me that I need to resolve and I need to sort out myself.
That
Now
is
that's
so
a
true,
massive
and so yeah,
turnaround.
so true and hard. I've trying really hard. It is difficult and challenging. What I've
Mhm.
tried to recognize in about the last year is when those same subjects keep coming up. So
Yeah,
it's like, especially when it's integrity and value and those really gross things where it's like,
yeah,
because I'm a workaholic. So it's like I will judge other people and, and when I was growing up, it was like if you weren't busy, like what are you doing? Like, what are
yeah,
you producing? What are you doing? Like, just don't sit there and be. So I'll look at others and go, well, what are they doing working 8 hours a day? Like you have things so when I see a subject come up and up of judging others,
yeah.
really I'm just telling myself,
Hmm. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
that's a tough skill
yeah,
to do, to be able to look at me critiquing somebody else and go, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you, partner, for
yeah.
mirroring my own stuff.
Well, my story, of course, with my partner, with my twin flame, what she did so beautifully was she kept closing down. She would shut
Right.
down emotionally, or she would
Yes.
physically leave,
Yes.
and that was the perfect conditions. She just re you know redid, reconstructed, recreated exactly the same conditions of being
Yes.
abandoned and being left when I was a child. So, the man in me is going, my girlfriend just needs to chill out for a bit and she needs a bit of space. You have been a bit full on recently, Miguel, or whatever. And the little boy in me is going,
Yeah.
it's
What
total
can I
terror and
do?
fear.
Yeah, desperate to hang on to. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay, well, we're going to come back because this is so much fun. And Zach's going to take us to commercial. And you guys, you are listening to the Coach Couch and Coffee. See how habit that is? That was my last show,
oh,
the Coach Peggy show. See how quickly I forget that I've evolved, Miguel? Oh my goodness sakes alive. When we come back, we're going to do our lightning round and chat more with Miguel. So stay tuned. Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Coach Peggy Show. I am here with Miguel Dean, who has written an amazing book, Bring Him Home. And he is so much fun. And I'm not just pushing a book. You know how I am. I read my books. It takes a while. I have an hour show every single week, Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Eastern. But I am not bringing a guest on just to bring a guest on. I look at who they are, what they align with me. I don't bring on somebody that doesn't align or teach me or will teach you. So, my buddy here, I felt like we just somehow collided in this universe to chat. So, I go into a lightning round now, Miguel. So, don't be nervous. It's not like you're going to be struck by lightning. But this year, I wanted to really make sure that we connect as human beings in a community and we get to know each other. So, how my listeners and viewers can get to know you better is for me to ask you just some crazy questions that you just
Great.
give me one answer or one sentence. So, I have three for you. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
As a child, what was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a Native American Indian and live, on the land and live naturally and go hunting, and that was freedom for me.
Oh my gosh. That what age were you when you were thinking about that? You
Uh,
remember?
Probably sort of 10-ish, my guess
Oh,
would
that's
be something
amazing.
around that. I love
That's
the, I
awesome.
love watching the American westerns,
So
but
cool.
always the ones where the cowboys lost and the native
Indians won.
Indians won. Yeah, I
There
was
you go.
just
That's
yeah.
so like you. I wanted to be a zoologist.
Okay.
Makes no sense whatsoever. I don't have any clue. I think it was because it was cool and I learned how to spell it. I don't know. All right, next question. A funny or an intelligent partner?
What's the first bit?
What would you choose, a funny or an intelligent partner?
Oh wow, that's a tricky one. It's tricky because it depends how you define intelligence. Because my understanding is that there are lots of different types of
Mhm.
intelligence. So as long as it was kind of a kinesthetic sort of intelligence and a kind of intelligence that was body smart and that was
Oh, I love
intrapersonal and
that.
interpersonal, then I'll go for intelligence.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, see, I have to go for intelligence because I have strong masculine energy and I want to get stuff done. Right. I
Uh-huh.
don't have time to sit and watch. And I thought, well, I could teach an intelligent person maybe how to be funny. I thought, Peggy, good God. Okay, so one thing that you will never do again. That's your last lightning round question. What is one thing that you're like, oh, I'm never doing that again?
I'm never I am never going to um, get involved in a relationship with a woman that is emotionally unavailable.
Oh, gorgeous. I love that. I didn't even pick these to be right down your lane, but see how amazing that is when you have a question like these questions, they relate to whomever.
Mhm.
See?
Good
Okay, you
question.
survived.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Phew.
survived. Good job, buddy. All right, so let's spend some time talking about what do you think when we are in a relationship, either brand new or one that we're in right now, that is one of the most important things to be aware of, either to grow it or it needs, it needs improvement or to celebrate it. What are your thoughts?
Okay, I think what comes up for me on that one is that to remember that the success of a relationship is not really dependent on how long it lasts, but on how
Mm,
much we learn and grow and how deep the relationship, how how deep the places that the relationship takes us within ourselves as much as within each other. Because I think there's a lot of I think it puts unnecessary pressure. This kind of idea that to be a successful relationship, you have to stay together forever.
that's what I
And
was
if you,
just going to ask you.
you know,
Yeah, good point. It doesn't have to be forever. It needs to be
no,
really strong for now, which nobody wants to hear that, of course.
it's just about it's about what you learn and what you grow. Because let's face it, there are loads of relationships. I think my parents' generation, that where they stayed together, but they were so miserable, and it probably would have been better for the kids if they hadn't stayed together, you
So
know.
true.
So yeah, don't feel that, and I guess connected with that is that just because it's challenging, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. Sometimes, because
Mm,
it's not the sort of Hollywood,
mm,
or it's all lovely and skippy and rainbows, and sometimes if it's really challenging and there's stuff coming up, that can be a really good sign. That's because the primary focus concern of a relationship is to consolidate the relationship within yourself. We can only love another to the extent that we love ourselves, and our partner
yeah.
will show us those areas where we need to love ourselves more, where we're still carrying wounds or trauma or
Yes.
whatever.
I think there are three huge disservices in life. Actually, I think there's four. And that's not getting to our children soon enough to teach them about how to eat well, how to move and take care of their body,
Mm,
how to cope with finances, heal, whatever finances looks like for anyone, and relationships. Because
yeah,
if we said what you just said to our children, it doesn't have to be Cinderella. And
mm,
challenges are going to teach you blank, blank. And you even give them scenarios. Hypothetically, if your parents were to divorce and you observed blank, what would you be learning from it? I mean, if we could teach our children that, I mean, that's what you do. You work with
mm,
youth and men and women. How do we get to these kids? How can we talk to kids that are, you know, products of divorce and all the
yeah,
things you've been exposed to?
yeah. I guess we just do, we do our bit, don't we? And that's why, I worked with disadvantaged kids for about 20
Hmm.
years. I still do some youth mentoring. But, what I realized was that it was working at the level of effect. I was kind of dealing with the kids that were already messed up by dysfunctional
Good point.
homes and so on. And
That's a
so
good
that was
point.
really what kind of like led me into, I began exploring, well, how can I make a bigger impact? And so I began working at the level of, of cause. Where are the seeds? Where do these
Right.
disadvantaged, disaffected, messed up kids, how do they get grown? And it's because of it, essentially it goes back to the relationship between man and woman,
Yes.
to love. And if we take that even deeper on a spiritual level, it comes down to the twin flame dynamic of the masculine and feminine within us. When we balance and we consolidate the union of the masculine and feminine within us, can you imagine two parents that have achieved that, or that are well on the way to that, or are conscious of that? Then they give birth to a child. Then that what
That's
sort of an
right.
environment is that child going to grow in? And that is how we, for me, that is how we break the cycle, really.
That balance. That's right. That's
Mm,
right. So let's say the parents that are out there that are listening
mhm.
and they're going through some tough times in their relationship because we tend to get super focused. We don't even realize people are learning from us and watching us sometimes as parents. And I've been divorced, have kids that were exposed to that.
Mm.
How might any of our listeners or viewers go, okay, stop, pause. I'm going through all of this. How is it possibly affecting my children? I mean, what might be some steps to be able to look at our children or even our niece and nephew and figure out how to be of service to what they're being exposed to?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things that come to mind. One is, don't put the kids in the middle. Don't use them as
Hmm.
leverage. That's just so, so destructive. Um, I tried to, and I think we did a pretty good job. When me and my wife separated, I made a commitment that my sons would be as minimally affected as possible, and we've always maintained a pretty good relationship. Like,
Right.
there was no messiness, there was no nastiness. I've never said anything negative about her, around the kids, or
It's
generally,
amazing.
really. I think one of the other things is listen. Give space to listen to our kids, or to be somebody that can listen. That will listen to them. Let
Hmm.
them speak, and not assume that we need to tell them how it is, or tell them how to be, or
Right.
whatever, just to be receptive to however they're feeling.
That's good.
And there was another one that I was just it was on the tip of my tongue. That, yeah, unconditional love, just practicing as best we can loving our kids unconditionally,
That's
which is such a tricky one. I mean, I know it scarred me deeply. It's like, if you're a good boy, then you get some love, you get some
right.
scraps from the table of love. But if you do what triggers me, or what I don't like, or what society says you're not supposed to do, then you get, all your emotional needs are,
Right.
cut off. There is none of that. So just to kind of think, well, what is unconditional love, and how can I love my children
That's awesome.
unconditionally? Which doesn't mean that we let them misbehave and so on. There need to be boundaries, and that's part of unconditional love, is boundaries and some
Hmm.
discipline and structure. But within that, there's a kind of fairness, because let's face it, our children are souls. They're infinite souls in young bodies, I believe. So there
Hmm.
is a wisdom and an awareness that we are speaking to, and not. I think we forget that sometimes, and we
And
treat
we're
them.
molding it. I mean, we have a responsibility. It
Yeah,
really
yeah,
is.
yeah. So not to underestimate the wisdom of our children, and
Good.
often children behave more wisely than adults, because if you like, they're closer to God, that
Oh, that's good.
they haven't come, they haven't had such a big gap where they've been conditioned and molded and by
That's good.
society and constructed and so on, so yeah, let's respect and honor the children.
I
Yeah.
like that. So, how are people going to find you? I want, first of all, the best way that you like people to find you, because your website's beautiful. It really is. And it explains you are so diverse in the things that you offer. I mean, whether it's a blog or a podcast, or even the children's book that you wrote. What is it? Mouse and Apples, or Mouse and Apps.
Yeah,
So
little mouse and the apples, thank you. Yeah.
seriously. And you offer, seminars and webinars and all of those things, but what's the best way for them to reach out to you? Is it website? Is it email?
Yeah, well, there are three. Email's good, which is just, loveinaction@migueldean.co.uk. The website, migueldean.net, there's a contact
Okay.
form on there, and there's all sorts of stuff, free resources on there. And Facebook, I'm not big on social media, but I do focus just on the one, really, on Facebook. So I
That's
have a
good.
Facebook, Miguel Dean Sacred Masculine is the
That's
best
awesome.
best page to find me, because the other one's pretty full up, my sort of personal page.
That's
And
good.
yeah, I love to hear from people and to connect. And yeah, I'm not some sort of celebrity that, oh, you can't, I can't possibly write to Miguel or
Right.
send him I'm not like that. I'm very human, and it's what nourishes me, is the interaction with people that are interested in my work.
That's amazing. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, anything that, even if sometimes questions will come at me that were for a guest, that I can get enough compiled to have just you back with an open forum, that's always fun. So you guys can always find me at peggy@allthingswellness.com. I want you to leave us with a thought, kind of a call to action. So what would be a message or a call to action that you would say in your infinite wisdom, that you wish either males or females out there would take, if they had to take an action today to improve themselves or their relationships? What would you give us a tip on today?
I would say find one small thing that you will do consistently, maybe daily, but you will keep doing it, and it is something that you love, something that makes you feel good. Because
Mm.
my experience is, people ask me, how did you get from begging on the streets to where you are today? And I
Mhm.
always say, it is small things consistently done that result in massive changes.
That's really
So the
good.
key thing is to keep doing it. Just find something that honors yourself, that loves you, that is a message to yourself of you're worth something. I value you, I value me. Just find something, whether it's 5 minutes meditation or
That's what I
sitting.
was just going to ask you. Now you need to tell me what your thing is. What are
uh,
one of the things you do to honor yourself every day? You knew I was
yeah.
going to go there.
Okay. Well, I do my Tai Chi. I do my Tai
Good.
Chi each morning because that makes me feel good. I
Nice.
walk every day in nature.
Yes.
That's a really important thing for me. That's kind of my meditation as well.
Beautiful.
There are lots of things that I do. There are lots of things.
Well, that's
Yeah.
your lane, and you've embedded those. And I thank you for doing what you do. And I really do believe that you are making a social change. And I hope that you take advantage of the forums out there to share your story and not tell yourself it's not a worthy story, because it very much is. I think that we need to relate to people like you and live through you and learn from each other, because we are one. We
We
really,
are.
we really are.
We certainly are. We certainly are. Thank you so much, Peggy, for
Thank
I
you.
feel topped up myself. Thank you for your kindness, and thank you for the work that you're doing. When we all do a little bit, we all contribute a little bit. Again, it results in big changes, and there's big changes coming on this
That's
planet,
right.
and we're part of that. So, hallelujah.
Very exciting. All right. Well, we're going to stay in touch. So you guys reach out to me if you need to find Miguel, and we will be back at you real shortly. We're going to take a commercial. You're listening to the Coach Peggy Show. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome back to the Coach Peggy Show. Did you guys not have a blast with Mr. Dean? He's a fun guy. He has so many things that he's done in his life. I really do encourage you to find him on social media or his website. Relationships are a really big deal. They're important to all of us, and we can learn so many things. I think one of the things that he said that really resonated with me is to look at those things as a lesson, and to look at those things that we're either complaining about or harping at somebody about are probably things we're mirroring and we need to kind of pay attention to in ourselves, and to love our children and our friends. Damn it. Just love them unconditionally and go. Life is short. Things are happening every single day. So I'm asking you guys to take action today. Do something nice. It's Valentine's week. Have some chocolate. All right, so it is time for fad or for real. Let's talk about a fad out there today, or what people might think is a fad. Actually, something that I have tried. So, have you heard about the flex belt? You know, you have the flex belt. And again, I want to just share with you, this is my personal opinion. This, I'm not being paid from anyone to share any of this stuff with you. I do not want to be sued, freedom of speech here. So I'm just sharing my experience when I do fat or for real. So the flex belt is that Velcro-y thing, right? You put it around you. It has those sticky adhesive things that stick on your abs, and it's going to make you look gorgeous and have a six pack, and you're going to look so sexy on the beach. Well, so when my clients start talking about it, I got to reach out the old credit card and buy something and figure it out. So I got the flex belt. This was about a year or so ago. Well, I was an idiot because duh, I'm allergic to adhesive, but I didn't figure that out until I had some blisters on my stomach. Anyway, let me share. So, is this a fad or is it for real? So, I'm going to go with the for real on this. I know. Sit down, sit down. I know. So, it's about $200 ish. And you have to get the pads, which are like $14.99 or something. And I can be pretty frugal. So, I was careful and I'd put them back on their little whatever it's called, cellophane thing or whatever, and I'd reuse them. I don't know what the reuse recommendation is. But anyway, you put it on and it's based on this stimulation. So it does this stimulation and contraction of your abdominals. Now, you can't have a bunch of subcutaneous fat or a big belly because it's got to kind of get to that muscle to contract it and to, let go and to stimulate it. And you have your dials. You've seen this, speed up the dials, make it more powerful. Ooh, and it would literally bend me forward in a massive contraction. So the deal with these things, however, that you get used to it, you're cranking up the dial, can be very painful. Um, you need to move the pads around. You need to do it consistently, extensive amount of time. But it is stimulating the muscle. It is like doing crunches, right? Would I recommend it to you to say, hey, that's going to give you your six pack and that's going to save the day and you don't have to go to the absolutely not. It's not going to give you your six pack. Is it a nice frosting on the cupcake for maybe your core routine? Sure. It's still going to be diet, nutrition. Obviously, it's the deal on getting the abdominal fat down. Water retention can make you be really big in the front. You need to look at your fitness level, your cardio, your body composition. If you have high body fat, it's going to be hard to see your core. I do have clients that have really strong cores, strong back, strong core, but they still have a lot of, abdominal fat. So we got to get that down in order to see your abs. Doesn't mean I don't want you to work your core. That's important to keep your structural, your back and everything in place so that you don't hurt. So this is the deal I would say. I guess I'll go with a yay, but only if you realize it's kind of an extra and it's not going to save the day and you move those pads around. But okie dokie. I also said, I think I'm getting sick of my blue nail polish. That's what I'm looking at. If you guys are wondering why I'm pausing, if you're just listening, I said I would share some personal answers. I have people sending me personal questions. So I'm reaching out, trying to get a little bit more open and raw and real with you about my life. So I have some questions I want to share with you. And I pulled out some Valentine's type love questions that came at me. One is kind of similar to the one I had on last week's show that came at me from Brian, who is a friend of mine since first grade. This one's coming from Matt. It's a little bit of a different spin. Brian wanted to know, how did I open my heart again? Matt actually wants to know, he just had a breakup and he he was really mature in this breakup. I do know some of the details of this breakup, and he just wants to know, how does he not slide backwards? He's kind of having up on a love focused holiday, so it's even super, it can be really tough to have a breakup at this time of year. So here are some suggestions that I give with, I actually gave to him, talked to him, and I'm going to give it to you guys. First of all, recognize if you're mourning too long with a loss, okay? And some of those signs can simply be, are you pulling away from people for extended periods of time, not answering the door, not listening, answering the phone? How's your personal hygiene? That's always a really good one. I mean, you can go without a shower for like, I don't know how many days is your norm, but if that's extended, let's see what else. Over or under eating is always a good one to kind of monitor if the time has been really, really long that you're maybe mourning. I hate to put a time frame. That's one of the things I told Matt, is that everybody grieves or has a loss for different periods of time. I don't want to ever tell somebody to get over something in a week. It could take a year for his heart to try to mend is the word I'm looking for, mend back together. If you're avoiding work, that's another thing, calling in sick, calling in sick, calling in sick. So here's some suggestions. How do you get real with what just happened? Were there any red flags? I always say this is a good one. Were there any red flags that you maybe missed where you contributed, because it takes people to make or break a relationship? So were there any red flags you missed along the way that you could have done a better job or tried to communicate and kind of save it? Maybe there aren't. I would gave him caution to not talk trash about her, not put her down, especially in social media, not post anything you will regret because it's always out there. Think about your employer. Would you be embarrassed if you were behaving in a manner and your employer saw it? What about your future children? Would that be embarrassing? And think about how you would like to be treated in this. So the main thing is, go through those, feel the feels. People, breaking up is hard to do. Um, and eventually, I think the best part to do this is, we fell in love when we saw something. They saw something amazing in us, and we saw something amazing in them. So look at the good times, and eventually, if you can, look back at maybe some of the pictures if it was, a good time. Because if you don't heal through the good and the bad of a relationship, you're going to take that crap forward, and you're going to find the same types of relationships, and just is what it is. All right, that's my advice on that one. So let me tell you about some shows coming up next week on the 18th. I have got Kat Canavos. Name is so hard to say sometimes. Canavos. She's been on Dr. Oz, NBC, The Doctor Show, all those fun things, written several books. She's going to talk to us about chaos to clarity. I want you to email me, and I'm going to post this on social media as well. She is fantastic about interpreting dreams. And so she had breast cancer 3 times and actually had some dreams about it coming and things that happen. So if you have any dreams you are having consistently where something is happening, I want to hear about it, because we are going to talk to her about it. That's next Tuesday, the 18th. 25th, Lynn Riley, professional counselor, observer, life in general. She wrote a book, 30 Days to Me. It's a great how-to guide on personal awareness and some action steps. And then Bonnie McLean is on March 3rd. Going to talk to her about integrative medicine, the best of both worlds, science, medical technology, healing, all of that fun stuff, East and West. So you guys can always catch me. My podcasts are live on Transformation Talk Radio. You can also find them on my radio tab at allthingswellness.com. My YouTube channel has the visuals of this live on Facebook as well. Thank you for joining me today. You have been listening to the Coach Peggy Show, and I will see you next Tuesday, 6 Eastern. Take care, you guys.